Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we reopen the Montague Street Tunnel. And to start today, I want to extend a special thank you to Governor Cuomo for his determined efforts to secure funding for Sandy-related repair and mitigation, and for his leadership in getting this entire region back on its feet after Superstorm Sandy. I'd like to now also acknowledge another key member who contributed to this and the organization she represents, and that's Marilyn Chazor, the Region 2 Administrator from the Federal Transit Administration. Without their support and without their funding, we wouldn't be able to do a project like this, as well as all the other projects we're doing to not only restore the system to the way it was the day before the storm, but to harden it and make sure it's built back better. In no uncertain terms, this work is helping to protect the 15 million people who use the MTA in the service region and use our system, and contribute to a $1.4 trillion economy. Today, we restore normal R train service for the 65,000 customers who use this tunnel each and every day, the 450,000 daily customers on the line, and the 5.8 million customers who use our subway every single day. Because reopening this tunnel will improve the system, will improve the performance of the system throughout the entire system. It took more than a year of round-the-clock reconstruction in difficult conditions, but we rebuilt the Montague Street Tunnel from the ground up. We replaced 2 miles of track, 37 miles of communication cable, and 14 miles of power cable. We demolished about 6 miles of concrete and terracotta duct banks and rebuilt them from scratch. And you can see in some of the photographs the before, and you'll see later the after. We installed a completely new signal system and more than 3 miles of tunnel lighting. We replaced substations, pumps, and track switches. And we didn't just fix everything that was damaged for Sandy, which was pretty much everything, we built it back better. MTA engineers designed the tunnel repairs with a variety of new strategies to limit the impact of flooding from future storms. These include a circuit breaker room in the tunnel, which has been sealed with a heavy-duty waterproofing door and of submarine quality. High-capacity pumping equipment to make sure that should the tunnel become flooded again, we can quickly dewater it. This is the first time in the MTA's history that we have shut down a tunnel like this. Of course, this was a one-in-a-lifetime storm, hopefully one in a lifetime. This system saw more damage in Hurricane and Superstorm Sandy than any other single event in its history. We didn't cut corners. If we had closed it only on weekends, which is the favorite way our customers and we like to do it, this work would not have been done until 2018. Clearly something that was unacceptable for the customers and for us. The successful reopening is our second major accomplishment in recent weeks. Earlier this month, after 5 consecutive weeks of Sandy-related repair work, we reopened the Greenpoint Tunnel between Brooklyn and Queens and restored regular G-train service for that part of the city that's seeing phenomenal growth and rebuilding. We're also rebuilding the Steinway Tunnel, carrying the 7 train between Manhattan and Queens. And we're sealing up more than 500 points in lower Manhattan where floodwater can enter the system when we have events like the one we had at Sandy. Much of this work will be funded by our partners at the Federal Transit Administration, and we do owe them our appreciation for that. To wrap up, I want to commend and congratulate Carmen Bianco, the president of New York City Transit, and his entire team for working around the clock to be able to make this event of reopening the tunnel today a reality. It's under budget and ahead of schedule, something that government doesn't do that often, but we want to make it a model. And I want to thank our customers for their patience while we completely rebuilt this tunnel. If you speak of resiliency, I can think of no better example than the customers that use our system and the residents of New York, because they are extremely resilient. If you tell them what you're doing, you explain to them why, they will work with you to make sure you can get it done. And I do owe a debt of gratitude to them as well. Once again, thank you all for joining us, and I would now like to welcome up to the podium Governor Cuomo.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. First, to Tom Prendergast and Carmen Bianco and the whole team, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. I don't think the MTA as an organization has ever been tested the way they're being tested here. Normally the challenge was day-to-day operation of the MTA, which is enough of a challenge. This is after Hurricane Sandy. We are facing challenges that were just unimaginable before. Construction challenges, timetables that were unimaginable. And the organization not only has stepped up, but has stepped up brilliantly. What Carmen Bianco and his team have done here, what Tom and his team have been doing has been nothing short of extraordinary. Getting the system back up the way you got the system back up. I remember after Hurricane Sandy looking at tunnels, and we were looking at damage we had never seen before. We were looking at damage that we had never imagined before. And this is just an example of that to me. And bringing in a project under budget, ahead of schedule. It was supposed to be a $308 million project, came in at $250 million. Tom wants to know if he gets the savings on his budget. I said, forget that. That goes right to my budget, those savings. But that kind of performance is exactly what the goal should be. You know, for so many years, government became about process. And in my opinion, we underemphasized performance. And this is a new attitude. This is a more aggressive attitude that says not only are we going to get the job done, we're going to get it done better and faster than anyone has ever done it before. And you took an impossible challenge, and you delivered. So let's give Carmen Bianco and the whole team another round of applause. Thank you very much. I would like to say that is going to be the first and only challenge of its kind, but unfortunately it isn't. We have a great partnership with the Federal Transit Authority. We have Marilyn Shazor, who's the FTA Regional Administrator, who's with us today. Let's give her a round of applause and thank her for her help. And the challenge for this partnership, as you heard from Tom, is not just to repair. If it was just to repair the damage, that would be a massive undertaking in and of itself. But this is actually more ambitious than that. The challenge here is to say, how do we repair the damage, but also how do we learn from what happened and modify and adapt the system so that if that kind of damage happens again, we're in a better position. I believe, and I'm normally an optimist, but I believe that there has been a change in the weather patterns that is undeniable. Climate change, call it what you want, there's a great debate about the cause. I don't want to debate the cause. What is undebatable and what is inarguable is the effect. And the effect is a weather pattern that we have never seen before. I've been governor under 4 years. We've had about 12 federally declared disasters, weather-related, during my term. My father was governor for 12 years, had a handful of federally declared disasters in 5 years. The frequency is up, and it is undeniable. We have typhoons and hurricanes in New York. We didn't have typhoons and hurricanes in New York. We've had floods, rainstorms, you name it. I'm waiting for locusts. I won't be surprised. But there is a change in the weather pattern, and there is extreme weather. And I would anticipate more of it to come. If we're not lucky, I believe there's actually going to be a continued increase in the extremity of the weather pattern. Which means what? Which means we have to be ready for it. And we have to prepare for it. So it's not about repairing. It's about repairing, learning from the past, anticipating the future, and building the system to a point and a place where that it's never been built to before. And it wasn't designed to be built for. This is basically an underground system that is all electrical, and an underground electrical system is the exact wrong system if you were anticipating flooding and salt water, right? Probably one of the worst combinations is salt water and electrical equipment. And that's what we have. And how do you take that system and how do you make it resilient? How do you seal it, anticipating a future event? That is an extraordinary, extraordinary undertaking. But that's what the MTA is undertaking right now. We've seen an example of it with this tunnel's reconstruction, with the materials used, with the stainless steel boxes, with the rubber gaskets, with the submarine doors. But the challenge is going to go beyond that. How do you redesign the whole system? How do you seal the system so if there's another flood, the water doesn't enter the system? If it does enter the system, how do you pump it out faster than ever before? What kind of pumping equipment? How would you do it? And that, my friends, is a massive undertaking. The good news is this. The good news is we are New Yorkers, and there is no such thing as a challenge that we can't rise to. I was thinking on the ride just now in the train, 100 years ago, they were designing and building this system. You want to talk about rising to a challenge. You want to talk about ambition and a can-do attitude. 100 years ago, you don't have the technology we don't have today. You don't have the same type of hydraulic equipment we have today. And they say, we're going to tunnel. And we're going to connect all 5 boroughs, and we're going underneath the ocean, and we're going to do it. 100 years. And they built a system that lasted 100 years. Our challenge, our generational challenge, is taking that system, making it more resilient, fortified for a weather pattern never anticipated before. It is almost as ambitious an undertaking as the ambition that drove the system in the first place. But that will be our generational contribution. And that will be the improvement that we make for our children and for the next generation to keep this city humming, to keep this city competitive, and to keep this city and state the best city and the best state on the globe. And the MTA is vital to that. Moving people, moving commerce through this dense metropolitan area is what you do, and you do it magnificently well. So give yourselves a pat on the back and a round of applause. We thank you for what you do. Again, to Carmen Bianco and his whole team, to Tom Prendergast and his whole team, and we've been joined by Speaker Sheldon Silver, who has been a great advocate for mass transit, for the MTA, for funding for the MTA. He's always been a champion to make sure that you have the funds that you need to do the job right. And I'd like to thank the Speaker for his help and support and his attendance. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Before we wrap up, there is one group I forgot. We've got a number of people sitting here who were the contractors who did a lot of the most difficult work in concert with the New York City Transit people. If it weren't for the general contractors and the consultant community that support our system, we couldn't do what we did. So I want to acknowledge you for all the fine work that you did. The event is done now, but we do have our 160 train downstairs. And anybody who would like to ride through the tunnel and take a look at it, we can do that. You can come down the stairways right off to my left, to your right. Thank you very much. That concludes the ceremony here.